now. 2 seconds. Hop on Twitter and look for Chat 10 Sports. There we go.
Okay, so this dialogue that you just sent us, we're doing this in order, and then we start.
Yeah, we're live, by the way. But yeah, for right now, we'll just rock and roll with it because we're going.
Yeah.
So, what's up, everybody? I'm gonna just see if we can figure out how to make sure we're sharing this stuff. Cool. Let's jump in, boys. Hey, everybody. This is Trey Winn. Welcome into Chat 10 Sports. As you can tell by our sweet, cute graphics we have behind us, welcome in. We're going to let everybody kind of populate as the night goes on, but we're here to discuss probably my favorite pair of episodes, guys. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah.
Of the last 3 weeks, but Michael Jordan continues to disappoint me, which I know we'll dig into completely. But yeah, how we doing, fellas? Just a couple roundtable introductions here.
Doing good, brother. Doing good, man. It frustrates me that you're frustrated about Mike.
Yeah, Zach, let's put me in my place. So we'll see how all this goes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, buddy. Zach, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Just hanging out, living that quarantine life.
That's right, dude. That's
right.
right.
I think these documentaries, the only things that are keeping me sane with the lack of sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I'm just grasping onto him for whatever I can.
I logged a few hours with NBA 2K like we've talked about the last 3 weeks, but I think I'm getting pretty good, fellas. I'm not gonna lie. Zach, do you play much on the neighborhood?
I'd still wax you, bro.
Dude. Hey, now that we're live streaming, now that we're sitting here live streaming, we're gonna actually pick it up, and maybe we'll have to do we'll figure some way to get everybody in where they could see a head-to-head match. But yeah, what's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. I see on Facebook we have some folks. If you could do us a favor, we've obviously got some new technology here. Throw a comment up for us and say, hey, I'm excited for this. It's nice to get back into live streaming to get your interactions and share your thoughts with us versus us just talking to each other every week. It's nice to have everybody here. But if you are hearing me, make sure that you say hello. Say hi to your neighbor if you would, like we're all at Sunday school or something. But let's jump in, guys. Chase, hit the folks with some info, brother.
Yeah, man. Actually, we all appreciate you guys coming in tonight. Just share it with some folks. We're spreading the word. This is literally one of the only 2 things I think the world's got going on besides like Ozark season 3. So share us out. Let's do some chit chat going on in here. We want all the comments, all the fun. That's what we're here for. Again, we miss live streaming a lot. So chit chat us, hop on in here, and text your buddies, have us all rolling in the comments. Zachary?
Yeah, and by the way, in case you're new to us, if you've never heard of us, we appreciate you tuning in and listening to us. Be sure to give us a like and a follow on the Chat 10 Sports. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But you can also check us out at chat10sports.com to learn more about us, and make sure to subscribe to wherever the podcast feed you find. Listen and give us feedback on what we're doing. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, folks, it is nice. I see Gavin Jones on Facebook popping in here. Really appreciate you, brother. Good to see you. I know it's been a long time, and he is Chase. I'm not sure if you remember Gavin from way back. I know Gavin was with us almost every week, but it's good to have you back. But folks, Michael Jordan, and we're going to jump straight into this thing. Excuse me, by the way, I'm supposed to tell you guys this, but follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, right now, in case you might be watching on YouTube, we're officially on YouTube, which I feel pretty cool about now that we're officially a YouTube channel again.
Yeah.
But everybody, we want your opinions, your thoughts. A lot of stuff happened this week, which I really dug and kind of was interested in, as opposed to last week. But yeah, first things first, guys. What stuck out? We're not going to dig too deep into it. But what were the first things that stuck with you in episode 5 and 6?
I love getting to see like how the media humanized Jordan. That was a lot of fun this week. It's crazy to show how popular he was and how little time he actually had to do anything else besides play ball and do stuff.
Yeah, the shot of him sitting in the hotel room was I don't know, pretty telling. I mean, I guess you just never think about that. I mean, I'm sure today that's how celebrities are, and we just as non-celebrities, we just don't think about that. We go to work and the spotlight's on us, and we come home and we do our own thing. They don't get that opportunity. The majority of them, a big spotlight. And so I guess you just don't understand. People were so frustrated with Jordan when he retired the first time. And that's because he was in his prime. But he said in the car ride, I don't want someone to carry me off. I think that was something that kind of stuck out to me. He was riding in the Range Rover, and he said, I don't, people keep saying I'm gonna play until they have to carry me off the field. And I'm not gonna play until then. I'm gonna play 2 years before that. I'm gonna walk off the court. And I think that's tough for an athlete in his prime. Just trying to figure out when is enough. I mean, you look at Tom Brady, he's obviously getting up there in years, and when does he think it's the right time compared to when does Jordan think it's the right time? Why did Gronk retire early? I mean, you just have all these big name athletes that they all have their different timelines, whether they're healthy or they're not healthy. So it was interesting to see Michael kind of deal with that battle behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of say he continues to disappoint me, but I think it's something that the more I watched the episode, the more I was kind of thinking, man, it was similar. And I tweeted about it last night, talking about how Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson shared that same type of celebrity status where they just could not get away from people. And it was hard to go to the store, and it was difficult to, just live a normal life. And that's kind of what they long for. But yeah, that shot of him kind of kicked back on the sofa, smoking a cigar. And he's just saying, I'm ready to get out of this. And obviously now, like, as a GM or whatever position he has with the Hornets now, it's a much different experience, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I think
it was foreign to me to see him smoking a cigar in a hotel room.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Like when I go to a hotel, I'm like, yeah, let's just get this stogie out real quick. Like that never crosses my mind.
No.
Yeah.
Good times, like we talked about the last few episodes.
Hey, what's up, Benny? We got Benny watching over on Facebook as well.
Thanks for joining us. Hey, Pawpaw.
Yeah, Benny Sanders. Good to have you, sir. But let's jump it off, guys. First topic here, and I know some of these we've actually, looked up. We've thought of ourselves. We've actually populated from some of you guys as well. But Zach, let's hit me with this first question, because I know that's something that kind of piqued your interest, and we can deep dive into this topic here.
Yeah, it was just something that kind of jumped out at me. And I know it did everybody else because it was all over Twitter. So, I mean, this is not going to be a new quote that people are hearing. But Kobe at the beginning of the episode, or, towards the beginning of it, said, everything I got from Michael. And I guess growing up, you always hear the debates of Kobe and Michael and LeBron. Where do all three of those rank? And for Kobe to say, I've never heard him say that. Have y'all ever heard that soundbite of him?
I have not, no.
He didn't, and he would not be who he was without Michael. So then that kind of changes. I mean, that if you're going off of, is Kobe better than Michael? And then Kobe says, I'm not Kobe without Michael, then that kind of answers that argument.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that would argue that Kobe was better or at the same level as Michael. And I think that Kobe saying that kind of answers that question. It doesn't take away from his playing ability, but that was just something that kind of was like, okay, so if Michael doesn't exist, Kobe doesn't exist. So then you kind of switch the narrative from Kobe to LeBron, and you say it kind of changes the narrative for LeBron's argument of being the greatest of all time, because he hasn't had the opportunity to play all these years in the same league as Jordan like Kobe did. And I know you can still learn from Michael, but it's different being a retired basketball player and, giving you advice as opposed to standing side by side in an NBA All-Star game and Kobe talking about that jump shot. He was like, I had a question about jump shot, and he just straight up answered it for me. He gave me great advice. LeBron can't do that on the court. So it kind of changes the narrative as that as well. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting soundbite that they decided to put in.
Yeah. With Kobe though, you saw from that All-Star game, that was a really cool intro, by the way. I thought they did a good job. I don't know if it was the actual supposed to be like the opener, or if I didn't know if that was just kind of their Kobe tidbit, like their Kobe. Let's start this episode off with him. I thought that was probably a good way to do it now. But with Kobe having all the success. You can even just watch and see how he and Mike move so similar. I mean,
Yeah, they do.
Every little aspect. I mean, weird body movement comparisons. LeBron has that in some, but like you said, he didn't have Mike to call per se. I mean, I know LeBron had way more people. He was in the early stages of the social media era as far as getting to interact with just about whoever he wanted. So he got a lot of advice from different ways that Kobe and Mike could never get advice from others. But you can always tell LeBron idolized Mike, and he just got a lot of that from just watching. There's a lot of replay games and YouTube and things like that. I know even LeBron was still later on past YouTube as far as that, or early on before YouTube, I guess. So it's tough to say Kobe taking everything from Mike because everybody took so much from Mike and everybody. And also LeBron idolized Kobe growing up, him and AI. So I don't know. Those two are just totally different. And you can just even watch LeBron play, and he has a lot of magic tendencies just by the way he passes and operates the game. So he's just taken from so many different people, and he's just a different body type. Where Kobe and Mike even look similar, frame and all.
Yeah, Gavin Jones comments, Kobe was paying respects to MJ, but Kobe won without Shaq. Jordan never won without Pippen. And see, that's the thing that's been intriguing me is I know we talked about it a bit last week, and obviously I compared to LeBron now. That's the immediate comparison, but this week did kind of point at Kobe. LeBron, we talked about maybe Kevin Love having some similar or kind of being maybe a little bit better than Pippen, but Michael without Pippen plus Rodman, that is one of those things that has my head scratching. I think all three of us talked about it last week, but
I had that. I sent you that picture. What was that? I have that picture that I sent you. I sent both of you last week with that win totals.
Yeah.
With Michael with Pippen and Michael without. Yeah. I have it up here. Michael with Pippen, his win percentage was 73.5%, and without Pippen, it was 49.5%. So I mean,
yeah. The only thing about it is even as bad as LeBron's Cavs team were, that early Chicago run for Mike, they were terrible, terrible. And also, the top half of that competition was way tougher than anything LeBron had. I mean, nothing against LeBron at all, because he took some bad teams. He took one bad team to the finals. Mo Williams was your second best player, but Scotty, if you look at stats, Scotty probably never had, well, it's close, but Kyrie Irving would be similar as far as like stats wise. Probably not the rebounds and steals, but point production in the playoffs, his role, and also as far as a third option goes, Dennis Rodman wasn't a third option scorer. I mean, the guy he only averaged 10 points one time in a season. A wonderful defensive player and had a high motor and the greatest rebounder of all time, but they never had a third option. So I never really got the whole without Pippen, but Kobe won without Shaq, but he had Paul Gasol, and Andrew Bynum was on his way to be the best center in the league, and Steve Nash, and he had wonderful talent around him. So I never really got that argument. He won without Shaq, but Shaq won without him. And I don't know. It's tough. It's tough for me to like give that argument because the Bulls' third option was nothing compared to what LeBron played with as far as his championship teams.
Yeah. But see, I see where Zach's coming from with this question because, I mean, even MJ said, I think last episode where he was saying that, he basically stole my moves. There's so much. I mean, it's almost – I think they've even had edits and compilations of Michael's footage and Kobe's and turnaround jumpers and fadeaways. And, I mean, it is one of those things to me that, LeBron hasn't necessarily, I'm sure like most musicians, you can hear certain sounds from, one artist and he's been influenced by someone, John Mayer is huge by, so many guys, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix. There's so many guitar players that you can hear And his playing, I think it's similar, with most, and maybe more in basketball than it is in football or other sports, because, most guys in football are just doing one thing and they might have the same build as certain players, but they don't play the same way. And I mean, it's pretty kooky to see sometimes how, I know Kobe even talked about in certain points, and I think I saw on SportsCenter's Instagram today, they put up a video of Kobe talking about, while they were on the court, they were having those conversations and talking about game and, how to, tricks and certain things that they could do, that what MJ did that he learned from. And I mean, I respect the hell out of Kobe for doing that and saying, hey, not acting like the ego guy, but at the same time, I definitely think, I know the debate that's been kind of kicked up because all of this is LeBron versus MJ, but I mean, it's pretty cool to see them pay homage and pay respects to Kobe the way they did, because when that first moniker came up and, a tribute to Kobe Bryant, and, it's like, man, how recent it was of his passing, but also just to see him fade into that screen and then him talking about MJ, it's like they've been planning this thing for a while now, it's kind of crazy to see. But
isn't it weird to like listen to them talk about him in that East locker room? It's like that Laker kid. They called him that Laker.
No, that Laker boy. They call him the Laker boy.
Laker boy.
Yeah, that's kind of like, okay. I'm not sure if he'd like that, but yeah. And one thing, we'll move on here to the next topic, because the dream team in 1992 in Barcelona. I wish I was. Yeah, that's one thing that I know we're going to talk about in a little bit. But it's something that I was kind of laughing at Christian Laettner being on that team. And I don't know if he was a rookie, if he was a first year, second year guy in the league at that point, but just to see him in there. And then obviously the conversation with Isaiah Thomas, like, you guys can speak to this probably more than I can, but Isaiah Thomas, if he and Michael did not have their issues, would he have been on that team?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and this is why I say Michael keeps disappointing, or it's the disappointment's growing, because I find that he is more motivated by anger, hate, just the competitive edge in his blood. It's just like motivated by just bitterness, and even I know Tony, help me with his name, Kukoc, yeah. Yeah, just him going overseas and him and Scotty just basically dominating that guy, because Jerry Krause went to go basically watch him play in person. It's just it almost comes off as petty to me. But do you think his hatred of Isaiah Thomas is justified with all this stuff?
I was pretty surprised that he's still. I mean, I just wouldn't live. I wouldn't want life like that.
Heated.
I mean, you can just tell he's just so frustrated still. And it's just like, at what point do you just let that go?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I try not to compare the two of them, I try not to put Michael in today's era of how stuff would go down. But can y'all imagine if we were to have a dream team created for the Olympics with, LeBron, KD, Steph, and then let's say, there's LeBron doesn't really have someone that he just absolutely just cannot stand on and off the court and is very vocal about it. You could argue that him and Lance Stevenson but Lance wasn't good enough to be, like, it was more of a joke. But if LeBron just outwardly hated someone and he was good enough to be on the Olympic team and then he wasn't, can you imagine the media backlash on LeBron?
Oh man,
I'm trying to think of who would that even be? Like, who is like? Because you have Steph. It would have to be somebody along the lines of Westbrook.
Yeah, it'd be like James Harden not getting onto
because they don't like it.
The Olympic team.
It's petty. And in my opinion, there's no doubt.
But is it petty, or is it him just wanting to win, and he knew that if Isaiah was on there, it would mess up the team chemistry and they wouldn't win?
Yeah, because Isaiah was disliked by everybody. It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't just Michael.
They all disliked.
See, but wait,
they said Bird had an issue with him.
Okay, but even Michael went on to say that he respected his game and what he did. But I mean, and help me understand, like, I know Isaiah embarrassed himself in last week's episode where Michael basically called him, he's going to say this and he's going to point back at this, and his answer's going to have change basically. But what made guys? That's my question is, why did Larry Bird and those other guys dislike the guy? Because I mean, to be honest, the situations where Michael and like Patrick Ewing comes up, Patrick Ewing's so freaking huge, man. Just the long arms, just huge.
Reminds me of myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think Patrick Ewing, I think Zachary T. Brooks.
Yeah. But I mean, Michael just all of a sudden, I don't know if it's like a handshake, what's up, and then he just jumps right into talking smack to some guy. Just don't go there. Don't start that. Yeah. And it's just like, Mike, it seems like he's the guy where it's just all the time, every single day, it is a over the top smack talk, not obviously the whole gambling thing that we'll get into in a little bit. It just seems like it is just too much, man. It's over the top. It's almost off-putting to me. And here's the thing. We've talked about this.
What is it, off-putting? And are you frustrated because you've had this idea that Michael Jordan was flawless? And
no. But I was going to say, like, I'm a 90s kid. I grew up, in that era. I remember I forget which pair. I think it's like the Air Jordan Retro 11s. But they were, I worked as hard as I could and begged my mom, hey, cover the other half of these things. But I knew he had his gambling stuff. I knew, and I feel like most guys at that level are, like, even Kobe, players didn't like playing with him. His teammates didn't like him, and that was kind of the end of his era was, unfortunately, people just kind of went away from him, and it didn't seem like nobody wanted to be around him. But Michael just seems like the kind of guy where, I mean, I know next week they're going to be talking about him and Steve Kerr and him punching Steve Kerr in the face. Like the whole LeBron, Jordan Rule book that the guy wrote, basically documenting his, I think it was the early 92, maybe 91 season where guys just did not like being around him.
Yeah.
And you almost wonder how much damage control was done to fix that or, offset those issues. But I mean, if we talked about sports all the time and we did nothing else outside of this, I probably wouldn't be hanging out with you guys. You know what I'm saying? If it's all the same thing all the time, and it's just like, Mike, give me a break, but there's just times where he just comes off like such a, I don't know, just a jerk.
He is. And the thing about with Isaiah, Isaiah and that team got the best of him, and Isaiah was the small guy that sicked his big dogs on him. He was there's always that analogy of the little guy that talks crap on the basketball court. Big guys to beat him up, and that's literally what happened. Isaiah Lambira was the more vocal part of it, but Isaiah was the point guard of even strategy when it comes down to the Jordan rules. Isaiah was the one that poked and prodded. Isaiah was tough to guard. Isaiah was amazing back then. That dude could get buckets. He was a great passer. He was a really good defender. And Mike has resentment because he didn't beat them and destroy them every single time. Like, that's just how Mike's mindset was he hated him because he also orchestrated all this stuff to just physically hurt him. And then he also beat him twice or three times, I guess. And it kills Mike because that team found a way. And even though it was early on, even though he figured out later on how to beat Isaiah and the Bad Boys, it took a while for him to do that. And he hates them and resents them for it. And then the walk-off was the worst thing that could possibly happen. They've got a chance to find a way into Mike's heart, and they go the opposite route and break it even more. So
you think his feelings are justified towards Isaiah Thomas?
Slightly. I can't imagine taking Isaiah Thomas off the dream team. Like, I love John Stockton. That was his replacement. He's, number one in assists all time. I bet he was probably more fun to play with. Like, I know Zach talked about it. He's probably just better for chemistry because those dudes are going to go catch lobs, and great passes are going to be coming from John Stockton more so. It's another person that not handling the ball all the time, try to go get buckets and take away from Magic and Barkley and all these guys that just love the ball. So I don't know. I don't think justifying taking him off the dream team is there, but I do understand the hatred because it was years years. That's the guy that he couldn't beat. And he's the little guy too. It's not like, because he's more physically dominant. He felt his teams were better. It was a migraine game. It was the physical abuse. It was just this combo of years of different kinds of torment. And then the last time he gets a chance, the dude walks off and doesn't shake his hand.
Zach, is it justified from Michael to Isaiah?
I don't think it's justified. I just don't hold grudges, or I try not to.
Yeah.
But it's just, I've been mad, and, I'll hold a grudge for more time than I should. But I usually end up laying in bed at night and being like, you know what, just life's bigger than that.
Yeah.
Move on. So I can't relate to Michael's. I mean, he clearly still just loathes him. And I can't imagine living life like that. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that it wasn't justified, period, but to hold it for what it is right now, it's just like life's just bigger than that.
Yeah.
Right.
I've also never played in an NBA championship or an NBA playoff game and gotten the crap beat out of me. So I don't, I can't put myself into that emotion wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this, and Zach, I think you alluded to the idea of it, but if the dream team of 92 played the best in the NBA today, who would be on the team for today? Like, who are your starting five against their starting five, and who would win? Oh,
God. Well, I mean, I really think the team's going to win anyway, no matter who you pick. I really do.
Dream team?
Yeah, they're just – I think our current team would have too many big egos.
There's some big egos back then, man.
I know, but they won.
I guess my surprise from that whole, the practice scene and they got on the bus, they all kind of bent the knee to MJ at the end.
I mean, they did, but would people bend the knee to LeBron for an Olympic team right now? I mean, I know
I was going to say, didn't they just a few years ago?
Yeah, well, but I mean that he wasn't
Mike.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. Is like
it would be different like making if the Summer Olympics this summer 2020, you pick a team. I really think that the dream team beats them, no matter who you pick. It's close.
Yeah.
Would LeBron be that guy though? Sorry, Chase, to cut you off. Would he be the guy? Or I mean, I know Giannis is coming up. We've talked about how, he's just a freak. But it's like obviously there's a little bit of a transitioning happening in the NBA now, where yes, LeBron's been dominant. He's not necessarily.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm rethinking this. That All-Star game was one of the best basketball games I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. So I don't know. It might be close.
So we're talking just the dream team. Are we talking like the American? We're not talking the American basketball team. We're talking about the dream team versus the All-Stars now.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it would be right now against
versus Gavin Jones's. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Let me peep on what Gavin said.
I don't know if
Kyrie, Kawhi, KD, Giannis, and AD.
You can, I mean, right now, the point guard.
I really think 92 wins still. I really do.
So right now,
that would be one of the best teams I could put together. I don't know where you put Steph on there for perimeter shooting, just because that's not how the 92 team played perimeter shooting.
Yeah.
You kind of are able to beat them with that, but I still think that they win. I really do.
Could you imagine,
Gavin,
like looking across, like, okay, so we teleport these two teams to Monte Carlo in that same gym. All right. You have that dream team, and then you have whatever all-star team you want to put together. I think for me, my starting five, I think if they were going to championship for the world for your time, you've got to battle it out, loser dies. I don't even know how crazy you go with it. You're probably starting LeBron at point guard.
Loser dies.
Yeah. You can probably start LeBron at point guard because right now he's number one point guard in the world. So you have LeBron, Kawhi, KD, Giannis, and AD. Are you kidding me? That's so – I don't know, man. But then –
Yeah, Gavin, I see what you're saying about Steph being soft. arguing. I was putting him in the argument of perimeter shooting, and you can't say that Steph didn't change the way we play basketball now. So that's why I was saying he would bring an element to the team that the 92 would not be familiar with, and that would just be another weapon. But
it would be so funny to look across like the first time if you don't give them a chance to get acclimated to how today's played, and Steph comes across half court and he's just yakking shots and making them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they just don't know what to do.
There'd be a timeout at 2 minutes. They're like, what the heck do we do? They've never seen it.
It makes me think that if anyone's going to coach the team, it's going to be probably Steve Kerr, who knows how to probably attack Michael and, force him. It's one of those things that, like, when, that's
dude,
just a crazy lineup that
coaching against Michael. Oh, man.
Oh, dude. That's one thing I'm looking forward to next week is hearing more from Steve Kerr. I think he's got some things to say. It'll be a lot of fun. But I think Gavin's lineup of Kyrie, Kawhi, KD, Giannis, and AD. That's just what
if AD gets hurt in the first 3 minutes?
But who would step up from him?
Yeah, if you gave your top 8, that's tough because you got who's the other side. So you're looking at Mike, Pippen,
Magic,
Bird, and then Ewing, Barkley. I don't know.
Barkley.
Yeah.
Dude, that's one of those. That's why I'm just like, please, one day I hope I can go to heaven and be like, all right, let's watch this thing on replay. What would happen in this situation?
Gosh.
Let me ask you guys this, because I know we had the question about watching the practice between MJ and Magic and Chuck. But how much? One, would you pay $100, or how much would you pay to watch that practice between the two teams in 92, but how much would you pay to see the 92 Dream Team versus the team that we were just talking about?
$500.
Yeah. $500.
I legit I might if you could somehow make it.
I'm not sure tickets would be that low though.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be those tickets would be higher than any NBA final game
ever.
That's just nuts to think about the amount of money that would drop. And then obviously
courtside tickets would be thousands.
Oh, I mean, probably, yeah. I know there was a few years back that one of the finals, like a game 5 or game 6 or 7, I want to say it was in the 80s or $90,000 range for a courtside seat. I might be wrong, but I'm just thinking.
I want to look that up because I think that was the LeBron Game 7 comeback. I think that game had the highest ticket sale.
That just stuck in my brain from that time, and I was just like, who in their mind? It's insane to think on those terms and the level of amount of money that you could be making. Because, I mean, if it's going to happen, if that ever happened, quarantine 2020 would be the perfect time to air that thing.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
So the highest price ever was Game 4 of the NBA Finals in Golden State. $50,507.
$50,000 for a courtside seat.
Yeah.
Oh, people are using that money to spend on that when I could basically blow out my student loans and pay off some of the house. Yeah, it must be nice.
Kyle. I'm with you, Kyle. I think those 3 are better than pretty much anybody besides LeBron, and Giannis is just a different.
I was about to say, I feel like Giannis could arguably be better.
Just because of how different of a species he is compared to them. That's the only thing is Barkley was so good too. I mean, I'm with you. I think the Dream Team wins, but that's an awesome game because KD is probably one of the best scorers ever. And I don't know. I think that's a really, really, really good game.
See, and I think, my thought is the only time you see that type of caliber, players, obviously all-star games and, Pro Bowls, and they never take it seriously. But I would almost hope that they would find a way to entice and poke the egos to make them go straight up and straight out the whole time, because I feel like it would just be a trading match of threes. And then obviously Michael, I mean, that's one thing we talked about last week was watching Mike's game of not dropping a ton of threes, hitting those 13, 10, 13 footers and just sinking them. And then this week, by the way, old Drexler just getting waxed. I felt bad for that dude, man. I legitimately felt bad for that dude.
Who'd you feel worse for, Clyde or Tony? Kukoc.
Tony.
No, I felt worse for Clyde because it wasn't his.
Dude, Tony had the whole team coming from, bro.
Well, no, it was, him and Scotty from what it sounded like, because it was funny to watch Chuck Barkley just go and say, "Yeah, Michael had it out for the guy from the beginning of it."
So that was a weird scenario because I know you talked about it's a lot with Krause. So it was very different back then because I don't know if you remember the NBA when you drafted your rookie players, they drafted him in like I think 90 or 91. They drafted Kukoc and he didn't come to the league till 93 because you held over in Europe during those times. So you drafted this guy and they treated him a lot like to a smaller extent because we don't have social media. You know how like Luka Doncic 2 years ago was this European sensation that everybody's like, he's going to come in. That's how Krause treated Tony. So Krause made him out to be like, well, watch out, Scotty and Mike. The next guy's coming up. So they took offense to that hard. That's why that happened, I think. Because, of course, those two are bitter. Mike's the most bitter man of all time. So,
bar none. Now, Gavin did come back and say, let's see here. LeBron, Kawhi, and KD versus Jordan, Magic, and Bird. LeBron's team wins all day, hands down. Because you could do 3-on-3, 5-on-5, 1-on-1. Like, that would be fun to watch. But again, it's probably like obviously a pipe dream of if we could do it on 2K and I could beat Zach straight up, maybe dunk on him all the time. Let's jump in here. I did like the split between the first episode of episode 5 and episode 6 to where it got more grimy, not grimy like they're going after Mike because obviously he produced it, but they got into more meaty topics with the Republicans buy sneakers too, comments, obviously the gambling. But let's start off with the shoe story because I was blown away to hear a couple things. I was shocked to hear that Converse was once the shoe of the NBA. And to think of where they are right now, it's just like you have fallen off so far. You can't keep up. But obviously now it's more of a vintage throwback. But let me ask you guys this, and you guys, for those watching with us, make sure and comment below. But is MJ the reason that Nike is what it is today? Is that like a surefire thing that we all can agree on?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
The stat that, the Nike representatives in that this stat has been tweeted out a few times, I think. But, the first year they signed Michael, they gave him the shoe deal. They expected to sell $3 million in the first year.
Right.
They sold $126 million. It's just like you so
me.
Right. How do you, as a company, how do you even prepare for that? How do they even have enough supplies to continually meet those demands? Because if you're only expecting to sell $3 million, you don't have $126 million worth of product in your warehouses. So at what point are you just like, all right, this blew up, time to order 30 times more product than we had anticipated?
How do we do this?
I mean, that is a good problem to have, obviously, for Nike. But to think of the crisis style, like or type of unfolding, I guess you could say, because if that's in the first year, you said that's 1 12-month period to go 30 times your anticipated amount. That's unreal. But even to hear Mike's, conversations of him going into the meeting with Nike and not really wanting to be there, and his mom kind of saying, "Hey, go and just listen," and even his, intrigue with Adidas, I don't know. Oh man, it's just obviously like we talked about last week, watching Patrick Ewing with his Georgetown polo on, and then have a Jumpman logo on the other side of his chest is kind of telling of how big Michael is, but.
You want to feel bad for somebody, Patrick Ewing's the guy to feel bad for.
Why?
Okay, so episode 1, when they go back, Mike's famous shot in college, the thing that turned him into Mike, that's Patrick Ewing standing in the lane, beat him at Georgetown. That's who he beat. He beat Patrick in the national championship. He never let Patrick get to the NBA Finals past him and win an NBA championship. Poor Patrick was owned throughout his entire career.
Yeah. But he did let him have a role in Space Jam, though.
He got the powers taken away.
His talent's gone.
Oh, man. Oh, Mike.
Yeah, but I mean, just to watch, I mean, and I know we talked about it at the very beginning of how his kind of persona grew and just how big he actually got. As far as I know, we talked about the whole gambling thing. Let me throw this out to you guys and we'll toss it around for a little bit. I know we're getting kind of close to our hour mark. I think we are. I'm honestly not 100% sure.
No, we got 15 minutes. We're good.
Okay, cool. But the question for you guys, does it seem as if the media overdid it on the gambling issue, or do you believe it actually was a problem for Michael as far as his gambling and betting?
I think they overblew it. I mean, once they started talking about how he was gambling on the golf courses, I mean, you really don't know. Are they betting on the golf game?
Yeah.
Are they betting on something else? You don't know. But at the same time, I'm glad they put in the documentary where they said Michael going out and betting on a golf course, even though he's betting, and they were making it sound like I turned the thing off thinking Michael's betting, 10 grand a hole kind of thing. Like that was what I was thinking when they're talking about how much money he was gambling. And he very well may have been gambling that kind of cash, which is crazy for all of us to think about. But if he's making 10 grand a minute, then who cares? I mean, that's like me going out to Vegas and blowing $1,000 in a weekend. I mean, I mean, people would look at me and say, "Oh my gosh, a lot of money." But if I lose that, then I lose it. If Michael loses it, he loses it. So it's like, I mean, I felt like the media kind of was overstepping their boundaries when they were, asking if he had a problem. If he doesn't have a problem, then, if it's not affecting anything, if it's not affecting your life, if it's not affecting the Bulls, don't ask about it. Yeah. It's not an thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it got way overblown because Mike Story was one of the first big celebrity, let's destroy this guy tabloids. He was the first big story. They're just like finding ways to poke and prod when it's just hard to comprehend, like exactly what Zach was saying. It's just hard for us normal human beings that don't have Air Jordan to understand his amount of money that he's spending because it seems crazy. But then also you listen to all these gambling stories like, so he went to Atlantic City with his dad. Now, he ran around with some sketchy folks. I get that. But a lot of these guys do, even today.
Yeah.
It's just another part of it was Mike was a different guy. And also, these NBA players live way different lifestyles than we ever will probably even think of. They don't sleep the same. They don't have these schedules as regimented. I know a lot of these guys now do because it's just different. It's more of a full-time job with them in the media, and that was the first wave of big media coming in. And now I look back and listen to that, and I didn't know a lot about the professional golfer that he had he gave the check to, and then a couple of those other sketchy guys. Man, those guys were very, very sketchy guys in general. Mike was just gambling with them, and I don't think he saw it as a bad thing. I mean, I think he had a small problem, but he can afford it. So it's not one of those where he's losing his house. He wasn't in that kind of trouble. And yeah, I think the numbers were just crazy. And I think they blew it way out of proportion because they saw what it did to the public for the first time. This tabloid media for this superstar, this king of the mantle, he changed it in the media aspect as well. He was the first guy they went after and they attacked, and it just drove him insane. And you guys saw it. I mean, it's just different because, you don't have social media. You don't have live stream interviews, nothing like that. So if you wanted to bump shoulders with the guy, you literally physically had to go bump shoulders with the guy. and that was Mike's life, and it was tough for him. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think the media does, I think, always in some form or fashion blow things out of proportion. But at the same time, like, I know the guy that you're talking about on the golf course, and apparently rumors of him being involved with money laundering and, other illegal activity where I don't know. I think Michael's problem may have gotten him into more problems there as far as, who he's running with. And that obviously gives more meat to the media to go out and make a story out of it, for the sake of just making headlines and making dollars off of the views. But I think, Rashad, or remind me of his name, Ahmad Rashad, in the impromptu interview that took place, him with the glasses, like I don't think the planning there helped out, but also I just think the idea of him kind of minimizing everything, it doesn't help. But also, even I forget who was telling the story, but BJ Anderson and there's the guys in the front of the bus, and then the guys in the back of the bus playing for big money. And why do you want to play with us? And just saying, I want your money in my pocket. I want the satisfaction of knowing I have your money in my pocket. And it's just like, that's a different level of competition, to where it almost is an outlet for Michael to, I don't know, find some validation that, I don't know. I know he talked about as a kid, like the fights him and his brother would have, and kind of earning the spot, the affection of his dad and the attention of his dad. And it's just like, dude's got some, I don't know if it's a gambling problem, or I'm not going to judge the guy for it, but it's one of those things, like, that is a fire that runs deep into his person, as far as just why, doing what he does. But it's just something too, like, that is a slippery slope. And I think he kind of got himself, obviously, I think he didn't touch the stove, but he felt the fire a little bit. And I don't know how it is now, but that's the one thing I remember about him, or hearing about him growing up, was, apparently he's a huge gambler. And it's like, well, I'm sure a ton of guys are, but, it's kind of telling to hear a guy say that.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts about this episode. I'm with you. I just kind of like I knew he was a gambler. I knew he was a big gambler, golf course guy. The trip to Atlantic City, I'd always heard about that, but I didn't know how sketchy people he was running around with. Because it sounds like he was one of those, the marks, is that the right name for it, where Mike was the guy with money. He liked to gamble. He was probably good at it compared to the average lay person, but compared to those guys, he was not. So they just, they like Mike because Mike liked to play, and they like to take his money. And he made thousands of dollars in a day, and they take it. So it's full circle.
Yeah, and I think too, he talked about towards the end, I mean, that's where I kind of felt for him as a person, because normalcy is, and even, we talked about Kobe early on in his passing, like, I'm sure, the ease of him purchasing or having a helicopter available for him to use just to get where he can go pick his kids up, like, to have that set, just to think about, having the availability of a helicopter, or learning how to fly a helicopter, or whatever what situation was, but just to get where he can go through the school pickup line to get his kids. And it's like, I mean, I respect the hell out of him for that. And that was one thing that hit me hard whenever he did pass, was just seeing who he was as a dad. But also, like, I don't know Michael's family life, like, but he did, even thinking through the whole conversation they brought up as far as Republicans buy sneakers too, is just waiting for a guy to slip so you have a reason to not like him. And I even kind of facetiously tweeted out, like, does anyone know if this Gant guy is worth endorsing? It's just, they're both African American, so you have to do it. And it's like, do I think Michael put his foot in his mouth for saying, and like you said, in jest, I think it's, it's a bad way of putting it, but at the same time, like, I think you could articulate yourself a whole lot better and get the same point across without sounding like a greedy jerk, regardless of who it is. But
I don't think you sound like a greedy jerk, though. I think you sounded like a CEO of a business.
Yeah, and I think people expect him to be.
He's there to sell sneakers.
Yeah, and that's where I think, like, somebody in that, and it made me shake my head of thinking, Michael Jordan will be forgotten, but Muhammad Ali will be remembered because of his activism. And that was crazy, especially with how LeBron handles himself now of I'm a basketball player, but I also want to be an activist. And Michael's saying, I'm not an activist.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the guy where it's just shut up and dribble, do what you want to help better other people. But at the same time, Mike was going for that dollar, man. And that was, but yeah, Zach, expound.
I just don't think it was a greedy thing to say. I think I agree with his point. I don't like how the NBA, NFL. I don't like that they use their platform to project their political views, Republican or Democrat. I just don't. That's not why I turn on the TV to watch a sports game. I turn on the TV to watch play. I don't. If I want to go listen to what I'm not saying that they don't have the ability to be more than an athlete. I'm not saying that at all. I think it's a great thing that they are able to have a voice, but it's where and how you use that platform to project your ideals and what you believe in. And I don't agree with how LeBron does it. But I did like how Michael did it. In that point in time, he's like, guys, I'm not worried about political races. I'm worried about my brand, my product, and my wallet. And that's what he was saying. He's like, Republicans buy sneakers too. You're dang right they do. So do Democrats.
Yeah.
Everybody. What he's saying is, I'm not going to turn away a customer, and that's the smartest thing he could have done.
Yeah.
I don't think that what he said was being a jerk. It's just he wasn't going to fall into what they wanted him to do. He wasn't going to play by their agenda, and he was like, I'm going to sell my shoe, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all he did. The worst part for him was they're like, well, you should care about that North Carolina race. Why would the most popular man in the world
why
have to? Why should he feel obligated just because he's African American? That's it. That's all they wanted. It's like, you had a chance. What if he knows nothing about it? What if it was the first time? That's what I'm saying. These athletes will start saying stuff that they don't really know what they're talking about. They're just pushing an agenda. That's it. That's what most of them do. And there's some stuff I've agreed with LeBron on. There's some stuff I would agree with these guys, but a lot of it I do not. Just because you have a platform and just because you talk about it doesn't mean you're right. And that's the worst part for them is they all think they're right because it's just their following is so huge, especially somebody like LeBron, where everybody's just going to agree with it.
Well, and I think that's what Michael was probably thinking at the same time is he's like, I know what my reach is. I know the power that comes behind me endorsing something.
Yeah.
So he's probably thinking, if I don't truly 100% believe in something, I'm not going to voice it because people are going to take this and write it in stone.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous to do that. And a lot of people nowadays don't have the maturity to think through that before they tweet something or say something to a reporter.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that he did that.
I agree. And I think that, I think people just wait for guys to mess up, and I think talking about Kobe and guys like Ben Roethlisberger and countless other athletes who've been accused and, allegations or whatever it is of just wrongdoing that. And like Michael said about the Jordan Rule book, like, they're sick of the McDonald's and the Coca-Cola ads. They want to know the meat and the how the sausage is made kind of thing. It's an ugly situation, but I know I kind of say he's disappointing me, but at the same time, like I fully, and Zach, you asked us earlier, if I was just looking up to him and thinking that my heroes will never let me down. Like I knew this guy had the reputation, and same with other guys. And I know Tom Brady, and he's not an outright jerk, but he demands stuff, he demands excellence. And that's probably why he's no longer in New England, is because, maybe the times are changing. He wants to be somewhere else, but I'm sure they're going to give him the keys and adjust to hit their offense. Where it's
coming from when you put on your post today, you said that you're going to expose why or tell why Michael's a prick. And there hasn't been anything in the documentary yet. Has he been competitive? Yes. Has he made selfish decisions? Yes. Has he made decisions that have affected a large group of people in a negative way, yes. But I haven't watched this documentary and came away thinking that he's a prick. I haven't gotten to there yet. I think Calvert tweeted after the first episode or the second episode, and he said, I love and miss the simplicity of Michael's game. Either you were wanting to win or he had no use for you. And to me, that's not being a jerk. That's just being a winner. And that's having a single, simple goal. And if whatever you're bringing to the table doesn't fit that mold or goal, I don't need you in my life. And I don't think that's being a jerk. I think that's having you have your mind set on something, and you will not take any other outcome for an answer. I don't see that being a jerk.
I just think he is just so over the top with it. Like I was saying, I knew he was notoriously competitive. But I mean, you got like, even I know with Krause, like I think he wants Michael wants all the credit you can get for those runs. Phil Jackson's there, who's a fantastic Hall of Fame coach, players coach. Jerry Krause put that whole team together. And then, there's been times I'm sure people have experienced, like, you're celebrating something like they were in 92. And Krause says, "You smoking a cigar? Let me get one of those." And he takes a shot at the guy. Like that was a huge, kind of crossing the line to me where Krause is, scouting, Kuchos or whatever, however you say his name,
Kukos.
Yeah, but I mean, just to go over there and watch him, and then to try and go after that guy, and I was impressed to see him bounce back in that second game in the Olympics. But like that type of that, he seems petty to me. Like Michael Jordan just seems like a petty jerk, where he is making an example like Drexler, like because someone compared him to Michael. Like, at what level do you have? It's almost like an insecurity thing to me. Like, are you that insecure that you can just say, "No, I know I'm better than that guy," and I'll show it. And even in the practices that MJ or Magic and Charles Barkley were talking about, like that's what intrigues me. Where it just seems like the guy has more insecurities that I don't know if it's like a masking thing, but he just does not give a damn. And I mean, I don't know if it's a different era, it's a different time. And I think nowadays, if as public as things are now, obviously the Republicans buy sneakers thing would be a huge uproar and a huge storm in the media. But even just, I mean, like we were saying with the bitterness and moving on and holding on grudges, like I don't understand. That's why I wanted to see like fleshed out even more of why him and Scotty and so many other guys, like not even just disliked Krause. They hated the guy. They wanted to get him fired. And even like Phil Jackson was talking about, like, who did this? And they all blamed Horace Grant. But even like BJ Armstrong saying, no, it was more than one guy. And I think at the end of the day, like when the best guy on the court, it's all like peer pressure to me. When the best guy is out there, and he wants what he wants, either like you're saying, either you're in or you're out. And nobody wants to be out, so they're going to fall right in line and side with Michael. It's just kind of unfortunate that that's how it is. But I mean, Michael just seems like he knew he was the best. He had some authority and like some pull, and I think he just overused it at certain times.
For sure. Like you could even tell in the game of quarters with the Tiger King's dad.
Yeah.
Dude.
Jerry Curl.
Those little games, it's funny, like because Michael was so popular.
Gave MJ the shrug.
Dude, he gave him
he sure did.
Think about walking to your car that night and being like, yeah.
I did.
I just shrugged MJ and took $20 from him.
Yeah.
I would brag about that for the rest of I would frame that $20.
MJ hated it.
Oh man.
I think there was a part of pettiness. I mean, but that's why he was who he was. And not only that, Mike just loved to destroy you. All that stuff that Magic was saying. I mean, man, that's the worst part. So I heard another story today about Mike and Clyde. So when Clyde showed up to the Olympics, Oh man, he had a practice where he came in. They were doing a scrimmage day, and he left his right shoe, so all he had was two left shoes coming to practice. And Mike saw it. He was the first to see it. It sounds like, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, I beat you down so bad you can't even remember your right shoe." And he's like, "I own this guy." And what's even worse is, they were talking about, I think Clyde the season before when he met Mike in the finals was averaging like 25, 7, and 6. He didn't even make all NBA the next year. He destroyed the guy. I mean, he had some good numbers, but he was like 18, 5, and 4. But compared to what he was the year before, and he was on this pedestal, was like the second or third best player in the league, and he was like this West Coast Mike. Mike crushed it. Just took his confidence, destroyed him at the Olympics, and just didn't let you live it down. So that was the part of me. I was like, man, I bet he was amazing to play with. I bet winning was so much fun with Mike, but he is not somebody I would probably like outside of the basketball world.
And that's where I kind of line up, where it's just like, yeah, I think even LeBron to me is likable as a guy outside of the court, and that's the more we've talked about it, the more I've thought about it. I guess I know Zach and I have been at bars where we've had dinner and hung out with some friends.
I haven't.
Not
we've been at this is years ago, folks. Years ago. But no, we've had those MJ versus LeBron debates. But I mean, coming into this thing, I think I was, because I grew up in that era and I lived in the hype of all that. Like, I tweeted it out last night, a poll of who was more popular in their respective sphere of influence between him and Michael Jackson. And I'm thinking MJ is the king of pop. He is so huge. He's so big, but nobody else. I mean, there's certain artists I think that were up there with MJ that could be as popular. I don't think any NBA player at that time was in
who won that poll?
Oh, Michael Jordan. I think it's still up for right now. I probably have an hour or two left on it, but it was one of those things, man, that I was expecting a really close, I guess debate, or however you want to say that. But at the same time, I think Michael's at 70 some percent in the vote.
Wow.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
Though. I think that Dream Team Olympics, when he got worldwide, can you imagine, especially like for European guys, me and my roommate were trying to look up like who was even the most popular soccer player in the 90s. Like I didn't know who that was. That was I enjoy soccer, but I don't know the history, and that was past a lot of the bigger guys like in the 70s and 80s. But so that little period, I was like, who is even like their idol? And then here comes this, what they probably thought of as the Monstars coming across the waters. And they're seeing Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic, and all these guys. And this is the first time they get to see Michael Jordan, this worldwide phenomenon, for the first time at the Olympics. And these European players, it's like, what? This guy, they've never seen anybody like it. I mean, Kukoc was their star, but nobody could jump and dunk and do all this stuff that they'd never seen before. So they're just like in awe. So it just took him to a whole different level. But I didn't really think about it until I saw your poll, but those were probably the two most popular guys in the world.
And I remember I think it was a McDonald's commercial maybe, or when Michael Jackson was on the court with MJ, and it's just like, that is so much celebrity and fame, in that one area. But yeah, I mean, that's something I'm intrigued to see more of kind of, obviously when they get closer to finals. And I'm still loving the jump in time from 98 to 92 and give more context. But obviously with just Michael, I mean, I think, I know they probably set out, and we talked about it last week, of why this whole documentary was being made. But I think MJ knew it before, and I think he admitted, like, people might not like me as much after this whole thing. But I mean, at the same time, and playing devil's advocate for both sides, but I don't know that we'll ever see another in-depth look into an athlete or even a musician or whatever it is, whatever that thing is, to that level that we're getting with this. There's so much footage, and even that Jerry curled guy winning that bet with Mike. And one thing I loved about that was he hit it once and he said, hey. He had his buddies, like, he just like made the point. Hey, just threw it out there at him. But yeah, that I guess that's the risk you take whenever you have that much footage on somebody and a team to know. And the more I think about it too, even the team, there was so much dysfunction in that team, but they made it work.
So much that we would have never known about.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I'm with you. I would love to see a LeBron or a Kobe documentary like this, but I almost don't.
Yeah.
Because this is probably going to be if we could, once this is all said and done, in 2 weeks from now, when all 10 are out, I'm sure they'll take a while to release all 10, but I'm going to go back and watch them.
Back to back.
Yeah. And I'm going to argue that it's going to be the best documentary I've ever seen. After you can watch them all. I'm not going to say that now because I haven't seen the last 4, but these first 6, if I could watch them back to back, the story that they tell, the intimate footage that they're able to show, I've never seen. It's like Hard Knocks got $1 billion contract.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like and I am obsessed with Hard Knocks. And so to get this kind of behind the scenes sports footage is just unheard of. I just don't see how, for me personally, any documentary I've seen is going to beat it.
Yeah, after the episode last night or during the later half, I think it might have been episode 6, but just looking at it and thinking the 90s were the best decade in history. And the way that this documentary has made that clear and documented it. And I mean, the music, I know the playlist apparently is on Spotify for the Last Dance. I'm going to have to go find that and just raise my kids listening to that, because that is such a good, it's been so awesome between the mix of obviously the dynamic and the visuals, but also the music. It makes you feel it a lot more. But yeah, I think watching the sausage be made is not always a comforting thing, because it's like I'm sure other athletes will want to have that type of exposure, but there's a risk that comes with it. I think a lot of people are like I had family come in this week and they're saying, dude, Michael's a jerk. He is a jerk.
That's why you're saying it. You've been listening to people all weekend. There's where it's all coming out now.
Nope. No, man. I mean,
points.
This was last night. You can. I've been live tweeting every single week, and it's one of those things. Like, yeah, I just think. And again, I'm not trying to be the guy. Well, I watched him in Space Jam and I loved him growing up. It's like this guy is over the top. He's 90 miles an hour all the time, whenever, as far as competitiveness. It's just like,
but that's he's also the greatest basketball player of all time. So if he wasn't what you just said, is
LeBron that way though? Is LeBron that way? Because LeBron, I'm thinking is because he's almost got 6 ships, bro. I mean, I think LeBron is not that far behind from him.
He has 3. But we don't know if LeBron isn't like that in the locker rooms. We have no clue.
Yeah, on a day-to-day. I don't think he is on a day-to-day basis.
LeBron has had some issues with teammates.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
Coaches. He's a coach.
Sure. Everybody's has
and coaches.
Issues.
Yeah.
So how can you say that? I like LeBron.
I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying
maybe it's more asked, he said, is LeBron like that? I don't know. He could be.
But we don't know. That's my
Kobe
question.
Was a jerk.
Who?
Kobe cussed his teammates up and down the court.
That's
you have to be in that mindset of I'm going to do whatever it takes to win.
And I get that. I just think Michael, maybe it's the authority thing with Krause, and it's because Krause put himself in situations to be treated that way.
He did.
But I mean,
there was no reason for him to get rid of Phil.
I mean, for sure. That's even thinking. I'm sure that went into Michael's decision to retire, but at the same
Of course it
time,
did.
if it was Michael's decision on that couch smoking that cigar, you could tell that dude was worn down to the point where it's just like, I'm sick of the bullshit. Like I'm sick of the whole 9 yards of the fame, the dysfunction within this organization that's being basically covered up. And I think nowadays, to talk about LeBron and his image, I think PR is so like on our game now because of how quick things go and how fast they can take off. But it's just one of those things that, I mean, and maybe
I can
it's
assure
him
you
posting.
that athletes back then were not going through PR training like our athletes are today.
Oh yeah. But I mean,
They literally have to sit in on PR training.
Yeah, LeBron made that too. I mean, think about LeBron's high school games got, I think it got a higher rating than a couple of the Eastern Conference Finals games. So that's what happens.
it's nuts.
Yeah, so LeBron was a part of he's the guy everybody follows in PR training nowadays. Like, because he was the first one that was from 17 on, had mass exposure. Nobody's been like him except Zion recently, probably. So yeah, LeBron handles it way better.
I just think LeBron can turn it off. Like when the game's over, he can be a jerk.
He's more
that stuff.
He is more mad. He's more magic.
I mean,
You know, he enjoys it. He enjoys the spotlight. He has his fun. Yeah, but I don't think he has that side of him because, I mean, LeBron's lost some finals he shouldn't have. So there's just that I'm going to destroy you mentality that's probably LeBron's biggest knock because physically dominance, I mean, my gosh, dude. I mean, how do you top that guy? But
yeah,
that's the only knock on him is because he's more fun. People think he doesn't have a killer instinct, but I don't know, man.
maybe I think the debate's there for a reason. I think it is that close. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, and like we opened up with the conversation about Mike and Scotty, and I mean, he's had that crew around him for, I mean, I know him and Scotty were there for 7 years together, but just to think of LeBron jumping from team to team, and I mean, a lot of time left. I'm hoping this season gets back sooner than later because I'm legitimately, and this is the first time I'm itching to watch NBA basketball.
Yeah.
And
It's awesome.
Yeah. But I know we could probably sit here and talk all night, fellas, but let's close this puppy out. And for everyone that jumped in with us, I know we're getting late here, but thank you all so much for listening. I know we're going to plan on doing this obviously for the rest of the Last Dance. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can even email us at chat10sports@gmail.com about your responses, because obviously we're giving a little bit of time there for you to get those questions in between Sunday night and Monday night. But yeah, my dog's over here chewing on something. I'm gonna have to go tend to him before he starts ripping something open. But guys, obviously our Twitters are on the screen, but where else can they find you on Instagram, guys?
You can find me at Chaser3050 on the gram.
Mine's actually, my Instagram and Twitter are the same. Zachary T. Brooks. Like to keep things simple, like Michael, just winning.
Oh man. No, yeah, I did the same. Find me there, but also Chat 10 Sports everywhere. Make sure and look that up. But also, like Zach said at the opening, if you're new to us, check us out at chat10sports.com. If you're local to Chattanooga, Tennessee, hook up with us for some watch parties that we'll be back this fall. I know the NFL is on track, and we'll be out there for the Chattanooga Titans fans, Chat Vols fans, Braves fans, Preds fans, once all this stuff gets back to, I guess, the new normal is what they're going to be calling it. But yeah, Parkway Poorhouse is the hub for all of our events. Make sure and check them out. They're incredible food. They're actually, today is officially the first day they're getting back into their full menu. They're open for curbside takeout. So in case you're in Chattanooga, North Georgia, make sure and check them out at parkwaypoorhouse.com. Appreciate those guys so much. But folks, thanks for watching. Make sure if you're on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, make sure and like us. Follow our pages so you get the notifications once we go live next week as well. But fellas, thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Quarantine. Y'all have a great rest of your week. Thanks a lot.
You too.
See you.